I just rebuilt my entire portfolio from scratch again, as you can see right here. Why did I do that? Well, let me show you my old portfolio and I can tell you why. It's decent. I'm still quite happy with it. The biggest issue I personally have with it is I'm not quite happy with how the model turned out. The problem there is I just use Blender way too inconsistently to be really good at it. So at some point I just like completely scratched it and tried to build it from scratch again. And this time it's still not perfect, but it's better in my opinion than this. But the next thing is the whole UX is just not as intuitive as I thought, because I was hoping for, or at least on desktop it kind of works, but some people still don't know or can't figure it out, and it's understandable that you should interact with the camera itself. Even though it's following the mouse movement, it's still not 100% clear that you can interact with the camera itself. Just nothing you're used to if you're in today's web. Usually you have just buttons or whatever. So that's the first thing where I was like, okay, I have to do something else so it's immediately visible what you should do. And then the gallery itself, it's okay, but I wanted to incorporate, my Wi-Fi here is not perfect. I wanted to incorporate this view itself in a different way than how it is right now, and it's also a little bit buggy because of the scrolling. Here you can, or I couldn't really figure out how to prevent it from over scrolling all the time. That's also not perfect, and these are my main two issues. The performance itself is also not perfect. I decided to come up with something else. It's not completely different, but it goes in a different direction. First of all, I have a landing page where I hope it's more visible what you should interact with, because I have a call to action here, which just tells you explore my work. When you click that, you get a crazy transition. Here you can see how I try to incorporate the content itself, my videos and photos, into the camera in a different way. Right now you can't scroll through them as you usually would. As you can see, you can scroll through my projects just here as you normally would scroll through any website. And at some point, the image or video that's playing in the camera just switches. Here, I just kept it simple. The only thing with the model is, but it's nothing I care about too much right now, is I have these artifacts at the top because I tried a technique in Blender where I could, I don't even know how to describe it, attach the buttons to the surface here, and it seems like something kind of got messed up in here because they also got moved a little bit at the top, but it's completely fine for now. And in general, I still feel like I have to touch up some of these buttons, but in general, I think it has more on better detail and just looks a bit more finished for my skill level, at least in Blender. But as I said, I use it way too inconsistently to get really good at it. The only thing here is I'm not quite happy with the contrast the text here sometimes has with the background, because as you can see, depending on how the background moves, sometimes it's kind of hard to read. And right here, I still have placeholder text, which is not perfect, but it works for now, just for testing it out. Here, I'm also not quite sure what would be the best approach to make this more readable. I try to implement like a blur background, like have a card around this section here, but this also kind of looked weird. So not entirely sure what to do there, but yeah, that's it. And like for the future, this is just for testing right now. I want to display like all my videos here, and you can scroll through the videos and just watch some snippets from the videos itself in the camera. Maybe I could even implement a way to like put the camera to full screen, similar to how I did it in my old portfolio. And then for my photography, I decided to just build one gallery with all the photos in it, just keep it simple. Even though here I'm still not quite happy with the gallery itself right now. I just basically copied something old I had in my other portfolio, just to have something to test it out, but that's not like good right now. I'm not quite happy with that. I think I'm just gonna switch over to a really simple gallery view as you know it from all kinds of portfolios, nothing too fancy. But as you could, or as you might have seen, I tried to add like kind of a transition there when I navigated the photos. I wanted to, first of all, my idea was to like zoom through the camera here like a portal, and then you would start on the photo you have right here, and then you could explore. But I wasn't really able to figure that out to get it working like how I imagined it. So I just like scrapped the idea and just kept it simple. So right now I've tried to like fake a flash, a camera flash, like when you take a picture. That's what's happening here, and then you just transition to the gallery view. And from here, I just decided to build a simple navigation with like navigation to home, about, just some different info about myself here, the typical stuff, nothing too fancy. But what I'm quite happy with in general is the general look and feel of the site. I love the effect and the background here. I got inspired by one tweet. I think it was this one from Dan Hollick. Just an effect on the Raycast website. This one. It's pretty simple, but it still looks stunning in my opinion. It still looks nice. And the idea is actually pretty simple. And I thought, hey, why not try this myself, but with a little twist? And basically what he's doing, it's just a nice graphic, how he described it in threejs. He has a plane or a cube or whatever in between the camera and the cube itself, and applied a mesh transition material, at least that's how I did it now, which you can configure to achieve all kinds of effects. You can produce like glass effects, almost like watery effects. You can distort it in all the kind of ways you want to. Here's even an example he shared where you can kind of see what's happening. Yeah, he moves the camera around, and depending on where the camera is looking at the cube, from which position the camera is looking at the cube, you can see how it changes and where the material is that distorts the cube. So it's pretty simple. There's nothing fancy with custom built shaders. It's just using what threejs and React gives you. And I decided to like use this approach and build something on my own. But instead of a cube, I decided you could see it right now, just to add text and then distort the text in like a kind of liquid way. So this achieves this effect. It's nothing too crazy how this works. This is basically the background distortion, all the code I used for the background distortion. To keep it simple, I just added an array of text positions just so I can position the text in the view itself. And based on that, I'm just creating 3 different text. Like I could add more text positions in here and therefore create more text instances. Above the text, there's a mesh transition material. And by default, it doesn't have any fancy values. I basically just adjust the distortion and distortion scale values as soon as the user clicks on explore my work. That just triggers an animation where the camera spins around and just animates the distortion values. And that's how I achieve the effect. So honestly, nothing too crazy. If you look at the implementation here, I just added the effect. If I remove it here, yeah, not like that, and go back in the browser, you can see it's gone. This also leads to the nice chromatic aberration effect on the homepage. I honestly kind of like it. It gives special kind of feeling to this. I don't know how to describe it. I just personally like it. And then now when I click it, the export text is back. And all the magic basically happens in the use explore hook I built myself. So basically I just call this whenever I trigger something when the user is in the exploring state, which just means he is in this view of my portfolio. And this is just basically a simple hook where you can pass in props and like a reference to something, in this case the material. I pass in the props and how I want to change them. Like when I'm exploring and when I'm not exploring, it's not perfect, but it keeps it pretty clean and simple. So when it's not exploring, the distortion of the material is just at 0, and when I'm exploring and when the user click the button, of course, it just animates the material ref to these values. And that's basically it. I'm just using GSAP in the background, and it does exactly what it needs to. So that's pretty simple. Just to listen to the stage change itself, so which would trigger this is I'm using Zustand as state management, because it's like really simple. I don't have to set up all kinds of boilerplate text, boilerplate code with Redux, for example. Although I don't know how Redux is right now. I haven't used it in a couple of years, but I just like the simplicity of Zustand. It's more than enough for my needs. It does what it's supposed to do. So my last to-dos to finish this, basically, in my opinion, is just add the text. And nice to have, as I said, nice to have would be have some kind of solution for readability here, and basically just fix the gallery. Just build a new gallery. That's it, in my opinion. Then I can just release this. It's pretty simple, but sometimes that's just better. Right.